Why don't you read R92?
R92, whereas section 503 of the Home Rule Charter requires city council approval of department directors, whereas the mayor hereby submits Leonard A. Leitner for consideration and confirmation for the position of Community and Economic Development at a current salary. An increase of this salary is contingent upon final passage of legislation being introduced this evening, Bill 53. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council hereby approves the appointment of Leonard Leitner as Community and Economic Development Director.
Mr. Mayor, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, President McLean, Vice President Appel, and all members of City Council. Tonight, the administration brings to you Mr. Leitner for your consideration to be named and approved as the Director of Community and Economic Development. Some of the highlights of Mr. Leitner's career: from 1994 to 2007, he held various positions with companies as a sales operations manager. From 2008 to 2014, City of Allentown Housing Rehabilitation Supervisor, Building of Standards and Safety. 2014 to 2017, City of Allentown Risk and Safety Manager. February of 2017 to the present, about a year and a half, the Interim Director of Community and Economic Development. Also, a highlight that I know he's very proud of: 1987 to 2014, U.S. Army retired, rank of Command Sergeant Major. For an enlisted officer, I believe that's as high as you can go. And if you're a Command Sergeant Major in the Army, even the generals listen to you, because you know a heck of a lot more than maybe the generals, okay? So he's a fine individual. Here's how I personally find Mr. Leitner. He's outcome focused. He's a tactical leader in managing projects. He's a straightforward individual. He speaks only when he needs to speak. And I think I need to take some tips on that from Mr. Leitner. Don't take his quietness at times for lack of knowledge. He's extremely knowledgeable in his field. He follows all the SOPs, procedures, plays no favoritism in his duties and responsibilities. Is a straight shooter, and it's my privilege tonight to introduce Mr. Leitner, who will have some opening comments, and then we'll open it up to questions, obviously, from City Council for Mr. Leitner. Thank you, Mr. Leitner.
Explain. That's right.
I always get the money that doesn't work.
That's a good one.
I don't need to. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, my wife who's joining me here, right here, my family and their support, and also I'd like to thank the mayor and Jill for their confidence in me and this recommendation for such an honor. The entire CED staff, members that are here right behind me for their support, and especially to my direct reports for enduring my meetings, accepting the vision and the challenge that I've placed before them, and to those individuals in the community that understand and support me as well, and even to those in the community that do not. But I just want to thank as well City Council for this opportunity to hear me, and even just for this opportunity to hear this nomination. When I joined the city in 2008, and so I took on this challenge, I knew it was a risk. I stepped into a role in May of 2017. There were 7 changes in this position, including myself, before I took over. This is not healthy for the city, nor the staff. This creates confusion, instability, and most important, no consistent leadership within the community or within the city. In this position, you need consistency, a visionary, a leader, to direct and lead from the front, to lead by example, plan, organize, direct, and administer the activities and the operations for community and economic development, which I believe I have demonstrated over the past year. After the position was vacant and the turmoil that was going on in the city during this time, I say that the staff of CED should be commended. They showed up every day. They continued doing their work as best as they could without any leadership. But still, they took on that opportunity and they kept moving things forward as best they could. As any great leader, you see a challenge. You see an issue that comes up, you step forward, you take a part, you become part of the solution and not part of the problem, complaining about it, doing nothing. And I believe I did just that February 2017, when the director position was still vacant I stepped in the midst of a storm. I knew there was a risk, especially under the circumstances the city was facing during that time. I knew that I could be without a job when a new mayor came in. But there was a need for a leader at that time, and I took the risk and stepped forward and took on that chance. When I stepped into the role as an interim, I had approximately 15 vacant positions. Out of that 15, 5 of those positions were key management positions. There was no planning director, no zoning supervisor, no director of building standards and safety, no HUD grant manager, and no operations manager. But yet, the staff and myself, we continue to move things forward. But I can say today as I sit here, we now have individuals that are occupying each and every one of those positions who I consider specialized and experts in their field. And they're sitting behind me today, right now. As the interim, we actually took on some challenges. I've already begun to show some results. We have taken on a hard stance in code enforcement. Absentee landlords and even landlords that are here, blighted properties. We're not proud of this, but we've taken more landlords and banks to court over this past year for non-compliance. Our HUD's monitor is now current. As you know, when I took over, there was a timeliness issue. As a matter of fact, Nadab Byron, who's the HUD director of the Office of Community Planning in Philadelphia, came up here just the other day, and he stated, for quote unquote, that since I've taken over, we've done a great job in improving our HUD standards. Our building inspectors are keeping up the best they can, even with the shortages that we have. They continue to move forward. No development has suffered, even though we're not fully up to staff, but they continue to drive day in and day out to get these inspections done. Our health department continues to set records and meet the needs of the community. Our health department has continued to move forward and has not missed a beat. Our lead program, although when I took over it was short-staffed, we had some issues and we're struggling. But today, they're still moving forward. They're addressing the issues of the kids with elevated blood levels. They're on track right now to even set a possibility for us to receive a much larger grant in the future, plus or minus some changes within the department. Again, as the mayor said, I'm not the most talkative director. Many people may see this as a weakness. I believe that I only need to speak when necessary. And we did not co-plan this. I wrote my speech and he wrote his. But nonetheless, I continue to still try to move things forward. With the team that we have, I believe we can continue to move and make changes that are necessary and keep the city on the trajectory that's needed. This position, yes, is a key position, but as a leader, I know when to step up and when to let my staff grow and when to let my staff shine. This position is a team effort, which is why I have direct reports. My philosophy as a leader is to create and sustain leadership teams where the members invest in each other's success, and who learn from one another as we work together to define and realize the organizational and the citizens' objectives. As the Director of Community and Economic Development, you can assure that I will always keep the best for the community first, as long as it does not have any short-term or long-term detriment to the city. That is one of my roles as the DCD Director, is to look at the short-term and long-term goals and possibilities. We do not want to make decisions that will negatively impact our future generation. No, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have historical data. And yes, we come together as a team. We look at the impact of this data, and we look forward to make decisions based off new technology, changes in economics. And as a director, I see myself as a conductor of an orchestra to help lead a masterpiece, to unify the players that will shape or break the city, set the tempo, execute clear plans and directions so that we can all stay on beat. I am to listen critically to the citizens, to the employees, to the state, to the feds, to all the stakeholders that work within this community, the community leaders, the mayor, the managing director, city council, key in local stakeholders. In order to do so, I have to shape all of these voices, assemble them, control the interpretation, the pacings, the demands, the wants, the needs, the desires, to really bring all these together and put it into one masterpiece. Although I'm not homegrown here, I can bring a world of difference in concepts and ideas that can help in the trajectory of the city. I cannot help where I was born or where I was raised, but I can tell you, since I've been here in the Lehigh Valley for the past 18 years, two of my daughters that went to the school here in Allentown. My wife is born and raised here. We both have families that live here, and some have lived here even 40 years plus. In my banking and finance days, as I worked here, I have helped many Allentonians with their financial needs, from loans to financing, in order to help, again, Allentown grow. Since my occupancy here in the Lehigh Valley, I have always been working in Allentown to help Allentown grow. As your director, I will take the mayor, city council, the citizens, their ideas, and bring them together to make a clear vision and help CED to conduct that and move it forward and carry out the vision. Thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leitner and Mayor Khan. I will open it up to council members first. And I'll start on this side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pitt. Mr. Leitner, thank you for that presentation, and congratulations on your nomination for permanency. I have just a couple of very quick questions. You and I have been working together for the past couple of months, so I have a good understanding of how you're doing things, and I like a lot of the changes that you're making. Could you talk a little bit more about the code enforcement aspect and how you have stepped up, taking some of our problem property owners the full way, taking them to court and doing stuff like that? Because that's been a problem for a long time, and I know you've made that a priority. So could you maybe go into a little more depth about that, please?
It's such a complex concept when you're talking about blighted properties in the city. And as you all know, we've been discussing blight in the city for some time. So it's utilizing all of our resources, from our nonprofits to our redevelopment authority to code enforcement, utilizing each one of these organizations to address this issue. So from the code enforcement, I always feel that it starts with code enforcement. It starts with us being able to tag the properties, talk with the owners, and try to gain compliance. And where they can't get compliance, because what a lot of people don't understand is to get compliance sometimes may take years, sometimes months. So leveraging the compliance aspect from the inspectors to our redevelopment authority allows us to utilize all these tools in order to help try to address this issue of blight. So again, it starts with code enforcement. So utilizing our ordinance from the moment that we cite them to making sure our paperwork is correct, that our codes are on the documentation, giving them their 30-day notice. From there, utilizing our court systems to get the courts to help. Anything and everything we can to try to gain compliance. So again, it's not a simple solution. Well, part of my philosophy has always been the lead is being firm, being fair, and being consistent. We need to have a consistency aspect of that. So when we're talking about consistency, I come back to our ordinance that you as city council have passed over the years, and being consistent is following through with the ordinance. Again, I understand we can't always be hard-nosed, but in some cases, after years and years of people not complying or doing what they're supposed to do, we have to utilize the resources that are given to us, and that means I have to enforce the ordinance and take them that route, then we have to do that. So different in law enforcement, and we have 3 former law enforcement officers up there. You have the law at your hand, you utilize it when you need to, but when there's times where we can talk and come to a solution, and we see that they're going to comply, then we'll do what we can to help the community out. We also understand too, in this process, economics come into play here. We understand that people come in on hard times. During a time when the boom was happening, everyone was buying properties and figured out they can buy a property and get rich and, the do-it-yourself or home shows. But when they realize that there's a lot of cost involved with this, it becomes more arduous than they understand. So then, and that's where I would like to utilize our redevelopment authority is, again, if they can't maintain it, then we need to do what we can to try to obtain those properties and put them in better hands. But again, it's just been consistent with the ordinance that's provided to us.
Okay, and I'm also looking to an idea of what your ideas are for how we can change how we do things from a technological standpoint, how we can bring things pretty much into the 20th century and then into the 21st.
Technology is one of the big things we've always looked at. Right now, with our code enforcement, as you all know, we still handwrite our inspections. I'm always about looking at efficiency. If we can, I know one of the things people have looking at is saying we need more inspectors. But before I continue to add more inspectors, I want to look at our efficiency. So if technology can help us in this efficiency, we can look at a lot of other municipalities and states where they're doing their inspections automated with the iPad. They're out there in the field, a couple clicks here or there, snap a picture, it automatically uploads them to the system. These are things we're looking at, but again, understanding the costs that are involved with upgrading technology, understanding the situation we're in technology right now. We have to work with IT. We understand there's a budget issue as well. But again, I'm not going to lose focus of that. So you guys will probably get sick of hearing me talk about technology, but I do want to push our code enforcement to utilize technology, iPads and picture taking out there, because it can make us more efficient. It also will help with the community too. That way we're looking at putting things where if an owner with the new technology, an owner has questions about, they can go into the system and see their inspections, they can see what's going on. So this helps again with the efficiency and helps with that open communication. We talked about transparency. This will allow us to do that as well. But that's quite costly, but it's something we will continue to pursue.
Well, and I can say from interacting with how you brought up several other bills, one that we have on the agenda tonight specifically, is great evidence that your department and you specifically are doing your homework to justify why you want to go a particular route. So I have no doubt in my mind that when you're ready to come to us for the technology, you're going to show us as to why it's going to be a cost savings. I have just two quick questions, Mr. Leitner, and then I'm finished. The first is, could you talk a little bit about why you made the decision, which I think is a great decision, but I think it merits the question, to add an economic component to the comprehensive plan as opposed to just doing a comprehensive land usage plan?
Yes, in talking with the team that we have, when you look at the overall comprehensive plans, they've always been about land development. And once we brought Mr. Stewart on as our planning director, he and I talked quite lengthily about doing something different. We wanted something more than just a plan to sit on the shelf. We wanted to have this plan more interactive. And knowing that economics always plays a part in any type of plan, now how do you do a comprehensive plan without looking at the economic impact of it? So that's why we decided to make this plan more of an economic and comprehensive plan. The other thing too is technology changes so fast. Something simple like when you're talking about the driverless cars, you're talking about Uber and Lyft, these type of things, it has a future impact on, again, are a lot of people going to be driving? You look at technology when we talk about the school district and how some of the low to moderate income areas, they don't have access to internet. But there's other communities out there that have broadband. They have opportunity for people that are low to moderate income, that they have free Wi-Fi access. So again, these are things we're looking at to put into the plan because we have to look to the future in order to help the city grow. So that's why we put the economic impact to it as well.
Excellent. And my final question, Mr. Leitner, is could you just give us an idea as to your sense of the difference between the strategic decisions that you have to make and the tactical day-to-day decisions, and also how you see our economic development department fitting into the larger picture of regional economic development in Lehigh Valley and how you can affect that?
Good question. From the regional Lehigh Valley Planning Commission and Economic Development, we do work closely. I know Doug is in constant communication with Becky Bradley over there at the Planning Commission. The other thing too is working more now with the community. You guys have talked about it before. We hear a lot of people talk about that. We are part of a larger, county. So we are looking to work with the county, with the region, in order to develop this plan. Something's, again, simple. When you talk about transportation, that not only affects us, but it affects, again, the county and the region. So we have to have that working relationship with all entities. From the strategic plan standpoint, I always look at, we have plans, but what's the strategy to get there? So that's one of the things when I talk with my team, is it's great to have a plan, but, okay, what are the steps that we need to take to get to that plan? So that's my strategic aspect to it is, yeah, we're gonna put something on paper and say, this is what we wanna do. My question now becomes, how do we get there? And I challenge the team that I have with me every day with that. They'll tell you they probably get sick of me hearing that, sick of hearing me saying, well, what's next? How do we get there? What's your plan? So we have to come up with those steps to get there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Leichner. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. Zupa.
Just a couple quick statements. When I was a police officer, one of my responsibilities was to investigate and handle the police vehicle accidents as well as injuries or whatever. And at that time, Mr. Leichner was risk management director, and we had an outstanding working relationship. I respect him. I think he's very honorable. But there's just one thing I gotta know now. Be careful how you answer this, because she's sitting close to you. This thing about speaking only when allowed to speak, you got started home. I just need to know, I mean, you know, not gonna answer it, but I still need to know when that happens. My wife thinks she has that too, but that doesn't exist. But I wanna hear it from you.
Can you take the fifth one?
I think you made up for it.
No, I'm only kidding you. You're a very honorable person, and you have my total respect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zupa. Oh, sorry. Step back here.
I just want to say congratulations on your nomination. That's a great quality to know when to speak. And this is coming from a female. But the reality is you're a man of action. You know, you have proven over and over again with all the great things that you're doing in this city. The question that I have for you is, we know that the community is changing. We have newcomers. We have many languages in this city. And personally, I really believe that we have to work in our customer service, city. What are your plans when it comes to, one, customer service, and second of all the languages that we have in this city? Sometimes people come and, to do some business because they want to buy a home, and we need to educate the community without any doubt. But what are your plans?
That's a great question, and that plan, when you talk about something like that is a long-term and short-term action plan that's needed. One of the things I can tell you that immediately what we're looking at doing is, even with the comprehensive plan, we've talked about something that's never been done before, putting the entire comprehensive plan, not only in English, but in Spanish as well. Again, with the majority of the Spanish population we have, we feel that they should also understand what the plan is for the city. How do they fit in? What's their role in the city? And when you talk about customer service within the city, I've heard that a lot from many council members and even the public. I would tell you, it goes back to what I said before. I'm a firm, fair, and consistent leader. I think the staff knows that I'm a no nonsense when it comes to that. I understand there's some points where we have our days where we're annoyed, but we can't display that to the public. And I think my staff understands that since I've been in the position, again, it's not anything I'm proud of, but to be firm and fair, I have to do what I need to do, and if that means I have to take appropriate personnel actions, then that's what we have to do. I've done it as an interim, but again, that's not the first thing I want to do. First thing we want to do is look at training, look at what's going on with the individuals within that department. I can tell you that some of our staff may be a little short-tempered because they're overworked. We're doing things sometimes the long way, hard way. But also, it's also working with the community as well. I know that when the community comes in, they have an expectation that they want to get things done, but I think respect goes both ways. I would like the community to understand that they need to respect the staff just as much as the staff needs to respect them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you that it's one-sided. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to be on our staff all the time about it. I want to look at both sides and see what the issues are. To make a decision like that, again, then, you know, we all know there's a couple of bad apples here or there, but I would say that's for both in the community and within the organization itself. But the way we fix that starts with training, starts with understanding the employees, and it also starts with my direct reports. They know what my requirements are, they know what my expectations are. That means we all have to grow and develop and learn as we go through this entire process. But again, it goes back to training and listening to both sides.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Ms. Bowden. We'll do this side. Start with Ms. Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After the past couple of years, I have to commend all of the directors, managers, supervisors, and employees who are up to me. I rent PPL, bring them all in and give them a standing ovation for the way you kept this city going through the last couple of years. Every one of you deserve an applause. But having said that, I believe that the department that was hit the hardest was economic development. And I have to applaud your staff for stepping up and doing the work they did to keep this ship afloat. As we say in the bar business, you stepped into the weeds. You were in the weeds in this whole thing, Mr. Leiter, and I know I've worked with you with different situations, but like Mr. Zuckel said, you're an honorable man, and I think you'd be good. I know you're good in this position, and I have all my faith in you. I just have two quick questions. One is, you know, I'm on two boards, the DCR Disruptive Conduct and the Blighted Property. Could you give me and the people out here a little idea of how you're going to handle, because this has been kicked to the curb, both of them, and we need to resurrect them. So I know I'm working closely with you, but I'd like to hear from you.
Absolutely. Let's start with the Disruptive Conduct Board. As you know, Mr. Middlecamp ran that for some time. With the changes within the department, we, again, add that it may not be well set for their skill set at the time. There's things that I'm working on as far as working with the Disruptive Conduct Board or Disruptive Conduct, so that I know you've asked me several times about getting reports and things like that. It comes again to our technology, but it also comes to having the right person in the position. So I am reevaluating the disruptive conduct and how we're going to start off that process. So right now, again, I'm just reevaluating that, and I think that's something you and I probably should talk about. When you talk about the blighted property, as you all know, the Redevelopment Authority was pretty much defunct for almost 6 years. I'm proud to announce sitting behind me is Kelly McElroy, who has now taken over the day-to-day operations of the Redevelopment Authority. We now have a full board for the Redevelopment Authority. Kelly, raise your hand. And I'm glad to have her on board because now she can deal with the day-to-day operations of it. But before we have the Redevelopment Authority, I mean, that's where the blighted property process starts. Well, it starts with our code enforcement. Once code enforcement does their portion, it then gets handed off to the Redevelopment Authority. With no board and with no staff of the Redevelopment Authority, there's no way we could have got properties to the Blighted Property Review Committee. I can proud to say right now at this date, I believe, Kelly, we have about 35 properties that should be coming to the Blighted Property Review Committee. And just for the edification for the department, or for the city council and the people in the audience here, is a blighted process takes a year. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. For us, from the time we go through the inspection, and people see, and they get tired of sitting in pictures and saying, what are you guys doing about the property? But it takes us a year to go through a process. I can tell you that as I sit here today, I was in a meeting earlier today with solicitor's office, trying to find the the House Senate just passed a new bill 667, which creates a land bank. We're trying to find all the different tools we can to expedite the process for blight. Again, with blight taking a year, it's going to take a while before we, especially with no redevelopment authority board, you would never see anything come through. But now that we have the board, you will see about 35 properties in this first batch. The next batch that comes through, it's hard to say what to be on there, but I will tell you that right now on our main list, we have about 170 blighted properties that we're looking at and we're working on a consistent basis. My staff, we meet weekly. we have what we call a problem property review or problem property meeting, where I bring in our code enforcement, I bring in redevelopment authority, I bring in ACRC, I bring in my operations manager. We bring in an entire staff and we start looking at each and every one of these properties on how we're gonna take care of these properties. We look at the different ways that we can try to obtain these properties, get them on the blight list, and get them through the process. But you will see more activity. Actually, I think we're scheduled in September, will be the first one that you'll be seeing those 30 properties.
That will be brought to the board.
September is the scheduled meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Leitner, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know what she meant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Leitner, I want to also congratulate you for your willingness to come forward. I know it's been a very difficult couple of years here, and your office has been through a lot. Just a couple questions, I'll be quick, I don't want to prolong this. I see that you are a professor at Newburgh College, the West Coast School?
Yes, I adjunct here or there.
Okay, you
Yes.
currently teaching there?
I guess I do. I just ended one of my 5-week sessions just a week ago. I think it was about a week ago.
Okay, and what are you teaching?
I teach different, but the last one I just taught was leadership.
Okay. And I see you're also currently pursuing a PhD in organizational leadership.
Yes,
I assume that's an online course.
it's a hybrid. It's online, and I go to Regent University, and there's the hybrid portion of it is once a year. I have to go there for a residency, which is about a week.
Okay.
But most of it's online.
Great. I really appreciate that. I think that's very important. You're continuing to develop your skills, and you're helping others with theirs and developing them. That means a lot. I appreciate that. And again, I fully support this, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Mr. Green?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for putting forward an excellent candidate, I think. And thank you, Mr. Leitner, for considering and being willing to lead the department forward. I have a few questions. You and I talked about policies sometimes, including the last meeting, and we don't always agree in every policies, but I think we're good friends, and I think you're coming to the department will be certainly a plus for us. Some of the questions that I have been touched by Ms. Malta and also by Mr. Robinson primarily. I just want to emphasize something that I'm sure you know, and it is what I look for, excellent customer service in the clean economic development. And that's in a vast variety, primarily in the inspection session department, and also when they come out to get a permit or when they need to get I guess some information about the city when they want to open a business. And those I think are some of the bigger issues that people call me about. And I know that you are working with the technology to do some kind of evaluation that you and I have spoken about, evaluating, having the property owners and the business owners to evaluate some of the inspections and some of the interactions that some of the inspectors have with city residents who want to, or non-residents who want to open a business in Allentown. And I think we have to be customer service friendly, business friendly, and encourage more community economic development. As you know, and I'm going back to what Ms. Mota indicated earlier, the Hispanic is the largest number, over 50% of the population in the city of Allentown is Hispanic. And I really enjoy hearing you talk about having some things in Spanish translating and also working with them. And one of the things I'd like to say, not only to you, but to the mayor, is that I'd like to see a little bit more diversity within the department, because when you look at the city, when I look at the city, I look at the finance departments have to have the money. They have to be safe in the city, so the public safety, the police chief and the fire chief, and the EMS have to be up to snuff, okay? And then next is the community economic development, not only because of the role that you play within the development of the city. We can have a lot of developments, but if they don't feel safe, they're not gonna come to the city. And also the health department that is on the U purview as well. And I see Vicky, who has done an excellent job, I think, in our city. So those are I think the roles that I see that are so needed in this city to keep them in good standards. I heard you talk about the comprehensive plan, when Mr. Robinson was asking you questions. And one of the things that I really would like to emphasize is the relationship with some of those organizations that have been doing business in our city for a long time. And I look forward that those relationships will stay and that we can, in a friendly way, continue to work together to redevelop our city. And I think you know what I'm talking about primarily. You and I had a brief conversation on that. The other issue is, in regards to blighted properties, one of the things that people talk about the most is the blighted properties that we have in our city, throughout the city. And I heard you talk about you're gonna bring some forward. So that is an excellent idea. And I know, to take properties on the eminent domain, it takes a long time. And we have to go through that process. And it helps our city eventually. So I'm happy to hear that. And I also want to point out something else in regards to the, well, actually, I want to ask you, in regards to everything I just said, if you have any response to it.
Yes. All right, let's, when you talk about,
That's a lot of things.
I got you. So when you talk about the collaborative working efforts with longstanding members within the community, I will say this. When I first came in as an interim director, I will tell you that I've heard comments from people within the community that said that one of the things that was missing in the community, and that was missing with community and economic development, or with the city, was leadership. And when I took over as interim director, they said, and they got to know me a little bit, they said, it's good to see that there's leadership back in CED. So with that being said, if the city's going to be responsible and the city's going to be the lead, you are our elected leaders. We sitting over here are elected leaders. So being a leader, sometimes we have to take charge. We have to step up. And the people that have been doing things, and some organizations have been created because they felt that there was no one within the city that was able to do it. They felt that there was no leadership in the city, so they created these other organizations or entities to kind of fill in the gap for the city. But now that the city is back up in operation, we have people that care, we have people that are here that are taking this risk and taking on these leadership roles. Some people in the community may not be exactly happy with the direction we're going. There's change that's happening, and we all talked about we want to change, you want to see difference. And I will continue to say this, that we've been doing some of these things with the housing for 40 years. And when you look at the Jordan Heights area, you look at the Upside Allentown area, when you talk, if something as simple as $1 million going into this area for the last 40 years, and when we stop and look, we're still talking about the same issues that low to moderate income people don't have affordable and quality housing. Where have these organizations been over the last 40 years? Again, we can't continue to do the same thing expecting different results. So yes, I will make some radical changes. I'm not purposely trying to create enemies, but when you make a change and you don't always agree with the other person, you're going to have some and I'm sure you all got the phone calls. Again, I'm not sitting here to try to make enemies with anyone, but when you ask the city to take on the leadership role, that's what you guys are asking me to do as a director, to direct, to bring, just like I said in my opening statement, I'm the director, I am the orchestrator of all of this. I need to take what your vision is as council, what the constituents are saying to you, what they're saying to the mayor, what they're saying to Joe, and what they're saying here in city council, and take all of those concepts, ideas, complaints, issues, and put them in and mold them into something that we can make a difference with. So if those individuals are looking out for their organizations, and I've had a conversation with the individual you're talking about who's looking out for their organization. My job is to look out for the city. My job is to look out for CED, and that's what I will do, and that's what you are asking me to do, is look out what's the best interest for the city. So sometimes it may not look the way those other organizations want it, but it will be so that it's not a detriment to the city. So that, to answer your question to that, and when it comes to blight, again, blight's a long-term process. We will get there. I have confidence in the team. I have confidence in you guys sitting there, the team that's sitting right here behind this podium, that I think we can make this change. But it's gonna take a little time. And if I can just deviate a little bit to go back to your question, Cynthia, which ties into your question as well, Leo, about the languages and the customer service. With the community that's out there, we are looking to reestablish our relationship with the community out there, with the neighborhood groups, and with these with the neighborhood groups and the different languages. If we can get some key leaders that speak, several languages or both languages, we want to work with them. We want to be able to talk with them and have them a part of these committees, or have them a part of when we're making these decisions. And even in our comprehensive plan, that is one of our strategic plans, is we're going to be out there with the community. We're going to be out there with the, every nationality that's out there, from the Asian to the Syrian to the Hispanic. Our plan is to have touch base with each and every one of them to get their feedback and utilize that information and keep them a part of the conversation. So internally, yes, we do look to diversify as best as we can when the opportunities present themselves. We will be more strategic in how we prepare job descriptions. We will be more strategic in how we look at things as far as to diversify. But until then, I will tell you that it is part of my plan. It is something that we're looking at. But again, it's not overnight.
I understand that, and I thank you very much for your answers. I think they're very appropriate, and I believe that you will carry them out. The whole issue, when I said the word diversify, I want to make this clear, because some people think that when I say that, or some people may misinterpret it, that I mean that you have to hire Hispanic at any cost. No, you hire the best person that you can find for the job. But that they happen to be Hispanic, it's a plus, okay? And I tell you for this reason, there's a guy who's an older gentleman, very successful man, but he came here when he was an adult, and he couldn't speak English very well. He had an accent, even stronger than mine. And he came over to I think it was the third floor, community economic development, with an application. And when he came over to the application, the person took the application. By the way, this happened years ago, but he still remembers. And when he told me the story, his eyes were actually watering. He came over with the application, and the person said, "This is a piece of garbage." And she took it over, ripped it apart, and threw it in the garbage in front of him. And he tells me that story, and I say, this is not the city that used to be. It's a different city now. And I challenge you to come back. And if you need anything, just come over. And if you have any problem from anybody, give me a call, and I will vouch for those people, because I think it's wrong to treat people in that way. And I know that the city's changing, and you're going to bring it back to what it should be. So I wish you a lot of luck, and I'm certainly ready to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I'm not gonna belabor what I think is an obvious point, but I have the utmost confidence in you, and now I'm gonna open it up to the public quick, as we have to per protocol, and then we'll call for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank Mr. Reitman for serving this country. son that served in the war with you there. I see you served in Bennett, Storm, and Iraq. I have 2 sons, retired cardinals, also served there. Thank you for serving. I like you only served for 2 years in New York City, Mr. Fagan. I can't say, I was an S2, they said people may
Oh,
not.
you're S2, okay.
You know what S2 is?
We love S2, intelligence.
That's at the top, right?
Yeah.
But the reason I'm here is, Mr. Leitner made a heck of a presentation. He answered all your questions. Guy's really qualified. I think that he can address many issues that we have in the city that I raised in front of the city council many times. And he answered all your questions tonight. And there's a guy that's really qualified. But there's one other thing I have. When I turned on city council, it's time to get Mr. Leitner. We always had a contract that showed the benefits, Michael, of any department got. If you got 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, how many weeks you could. Did you discontinue that? When I started on council, you know, like, we used to have that, when the guy got appointed to the council. Huh? Oh, it was 2000 and 2007. We used to always have it. It always came along with the resolution. Because we don't know, sometimes you offer one councilman more than the other councilman.
We
Council was-
equally get nothing. We all equally get nothing.
You and the mayor were friends. So, maybe it's something to look into again, but you know that we used to break down on what the benefits were, what they had. They always told you what other.
There were a lot of changes.
Yeah, no, it's not, maybe it's something to consider again.
Yeah.
Mr. Leitenbeck is really qualified, I think, for his presentation. And you know,
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
thank you for serving again. Only if you do serve.
I was an American citizen when I wanted to, but I didn't want to.
Good evening, Mr. Bosco.
Good evening. How you doing? Dan Bosket, Director at Community Action Development Corp in Allentown on 7th Street. I just wanted to say that I think the council and the mayor have made an excellent choice for Director for Community Economic Development. I've had the opportunity to do some work with Leonard recently, but I know of his work for the last several years. You can see on his resume that he's been working for the city for quite a while. And I think it's important that we nominate and put somebody in this position that has a history of working with the city, because even though people say that you can learn on the job, it's better for someone to already have learned when they get the job. So I feel pretty confident that Leonard can do a great job. He's already demonstrated that he has an awareness of things that need to be done. And I want to congratulate the mayor for making this appointment at this time, because as Ms. Officer said earlier, things have seemed to have been churning for a period of time, and we need to start getting some permanency and moving forward. And then for those of you who don't work in government and for those of us, should I say, who don't work in government and don't work at City Hall, it's important to have permanent people in place so that we know who it is that we're actually working with. So this helps us tremendously as well. So thank you again.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody, Mr. Hanlon, the vote.
Ms. Zappa?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yes.
Ms. Moda?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
I'm also a yes.
Mr. President, I have 7 days and no nays.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leitner, I'm not going to ask you to say anything else. You've done enough tonight, so I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, council. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.